All right, so the Gold Cup group stage is done, and I thought it would be entertaining for us to sit down here together, go through every single team, and give them a performance grade. Which means if you are one of the teams that have already been eliminated from the Gold Cup, you can consider this my official grade for your entire campaign. This is going to be rapid fire, so as we go through these one by one, you guys be sure to drop your letter grade for your national team down below in the comments. Let me know if I'm a hater. Let me know if I'm too generous. Smash the like button, and if you guys want to see more videos covering CONCACAF. We got plenty more videos covering the Gold Cup. Then we got World Cup qualifiers. Then we got the actual World Cup. Nations League content is nonstop here. There's so many videos covering the region. Just, if you're a fan, I don't even care what team it is, you probably want to be subscribed. All right, so y'all can see the tier list here. We're keeping it simple today, folks. Nothing fancy. A, B, C, D, F. I think that's self-explanatory. I assume most of you went to school. I probably don't need to explain which one is good, which one's bad. We're just going to go in order of how I uploaded the logos as well, which means we are starting with Canada. For Canada, I think it was a good group stage campaign. Was it amazing? No. Therefore, I'm going to give Canada a B. I think if you want the A, you got to take 9 points, bro. You got to look like the kings of CONCACAF. And I think in the Honduras game, if they kept up that form, they're an A, hands down. But then you have the Curacao game, which is not very good. Honestly, a bit fortunate to not even lose. And then you have the El Salvador MMA match, which I think Canada handled really well. Let's be honest, El Salvador, I'll get to them later, had no offensive bag whatsoever. And Canada ends up winning 2-0, and they probably could have scored more, but really they just wanted to take the 3 points and get the hell out of there. So they did that. I would give it an 8 out of 10 group stage for Canada. I don't really think there's any excuses they can use for why they did not take 9 points. I think if the U.S. can take 9 points in their group, Canada could have taken 9 points. And what I would classify is the weakest group. I think it's fair to say. I don't even think it's debatable. Canada had the easiest opposition to play. It could have been 9. If they take 9, it's an A for me. Still a good campaign. Do they look like the best team? No, and that's why I can't go A. Guatemala next. Speaking of A, guys, I'm giving Guatemala an A for their group stage. I think beating Jamaica for the first time in Gold Cup history and being the team that arguably, of everyone who advanced, I would say Guatemala are probably the one that the most people are looking at like, dang, they did it. Like, wow, that's really impressive. It's either them or Honduras. The difference is Guatemala had to play 3 good teams, or certainly 2 good teams and then one really feisty offensive team in Guadeloupe, whereas Honduras got to play El Salvador, who are cooked, and they got to play Curacao, who, let's be honest, they should be beating Curacao. So they were the favorite to advance, at least according to me, the entire time. So I think Guatemala's advancement to the quarterfinals, which they've done back-to-back tournaments now. Huge shout out to them. I think it was great. And then in the Panama game, you lose, sure, but you lost 1-0. Ask Guadeloupe how many goals they ate against Panama. Ask the Jamaicans how many goals they ate against Panama. I think of all the primary and secondary achievements for this group, they accomplished that. They even win the final game despite resting some of their players, 3-2 against Guadeloupe. Fantastic campaign for Guatemala overall. Costa Rica next. This is an interesting one. There are a couple of these teams here that I think can be like you can make an argument for a couple different grades. I'm going to go for the B because they didn't lose to Mexico. They finished on 7 points, joint with Mexico for first, just had a slightly worse GD. I think if you talk about offense and chance creation, they were actually better than Mexico. I would say significantly better than Mexico. But defensively, they look a bit more vulnerable than we're used to seeing from Los Ticos. This is not a defensively stalwart team that is just insanely hard to score against. I mean, Dominicans gave them a scare. Suriname gave them a scare. Mexico gave them a scare in the first half, at least. But I don't think we can be too critical of Costa Rica. I think despite them having to win a couple shootouts against the minnow teams in Group A, they still did what they needed to do, and then they didn't lose to Mexico. And usually at the Gold Cup, they do lose to Mexico. So, yeah, could they have conceded less goals? Sure, but am I going to put them as a C for that? Absolutely not. I think B is fair for Costa Rica. They've had a couple players playing well, too. B is fair. El Salvador. I'm so honest, y'all. Straight F. I think there's an argument, actually, that El Salvador are the worst team at the Gold Cup. There's a couple other teams who are arguing with them, and we'll get to those later. This is going to be every single team. But El Salvador, let me just read you some stats here, right? Because the numbers are crazy. 0 goals scored in the group stage for the Gold Cup. They are the only team to not score. 3 red cards in the group stage. They are first in all teams. when it comes to red card accumulation. One big chance created, that is also the lowest of all teams that participated. 15 total shots. 15 total shots in 3 games. In 270 minutes of football, they had 15 shots. Maybe that's not too bad. How about this? 2 shots on target. You got to be shitting me. 2 shots on target in the group stage. That might be the Gold Cup record low shots on target. I don't have that stat available to me. I don't have time to go and chase that. But 2 shots on target in 3 games is abysmal. I was flirting with the D for them, maybe because they're just not very good, and defensively, I guess they did okay. But in that must-win game against Canada, they were more interested in slide tackling from behind than they were in chance creation. I think they suck. It's not fun to watch. It was defensive football that backfired on them. And if you're going to park the bus, if you're going to be stubborn like that, and it doesn't work out, I'm going to punish you because you're forcing me to watch that garbage football. F for El Salvador. Terrible. I mean, by basically every metric except for, like, expected XG conceded, they were one of the worst teams, if not the worst, at the Gold Cup. Terrible tournament from them. Suriname next up. I'm going to be a little harsh here. I'm going D. I'm going D for Suriname. Now, hold up. Hear me out. I got nothing against Suriname. But this is a team that finishes on 1 point, and they finish last in their group. And a lot of y'all had them as your dark horse. So the expectation for Suriname, people want to talk now like everybody knew it was going to be Mexico and Costa Rica. No, y'all didn't. A lot of y'all had Dominican Republic. A lot of y'all had Suriname. I remember. I've seen the prediction videos. I've seen the tweets. And you were wrong. And Suriname, I don't think performance-wise they were bad. I think performance-wise, actually, they were quite solid. But if I'm going the actual results and did that meet expectation, 1 point at the Gold Cup is not okay. I'll get to the Dominicans later. I feel like the fact neither side won that final game is going to condemn both of them to death. It really is, because you cannot come in with this much hype and excitement and finish last on 1 point. What's worse for Suriname that the Dominicans don't have is the Dominicans, number 1, are debutantes. Number 2, Suriname, bro, y'all were in the Nations League quarterfinals. You played against Canada in the last edition. This is not your first rodeo. The Dominicans just got here. They just left the baseball pitch. They put their cleats on. Now they're warming up in the 18-yard box. Suriname, you're supposed to be a little bit better than this. You're supposed to be a little bit more tenured. You have players who, like Garano Kirk, shout out baller. It's a shame we will not be able to watch him anymore. But y'all got to be a little bit better than this, man. You had a good opening game offensively against Costa Rica. You threatened sometimes against Mexico, and defensively were okay. But I think they underperformed. And I think Surinamese fans can agree with me that they should have done better than this. Finishing last is unacceptable. Next up, we have Guadeloupe. Now, Guadeloupe, I'm going to go right next to them. I'm going to go D. I think for Guadeloupe, the reality was they were always going to finish last. And they did finish last. Why I'm going D and not F, though, is because they gave us some amazing football matches. This is a team that scored 5 and conceded 10. But, like, they weren't afraid to come out and ball. This team has no fear of death. They got shooters up top. They scored 2 against Panama. Nobody else was able to do that. Nobody else was able to break down Panama like that, except Guadeloupe. The one team that was able to look Panama look somewhat vulnerable was the team that finished last. Against Guatemala, they just have a terrible defense, man, and that's ultimately why they finished last. But I thought they were going to finish last. They did finish last. Just on the pitch, performance-wise, I think they look better than what I was expecting. So I'm going to give them a D. And now the time has come for Jamaica. And let's not even, I almost don't want to waste my breath talking about this national team. The biggest embarrassment to CONCACAF as a region, the biggest failures in CONCACAF, arguably the biggest failures in world football. A team that gets talked about time and time again, yet does not have a single tangible result in the last decade that anyone would give a shit about, other than beating Canada away off a handball. Outside of that, this team has done nothing. I know I'm just talking about the Gold Cup group stage now, and it was historically bad. It was a historic defeat to Panama in the group stage. A Panama that rotated the team, by the way, because they had already locked up advancement unless they lost by 5 goals. A historic defeat to Guatemala in the group stage of the Gold Cup. Guatemala had never beaten Jamaica in the group stage before. A absolutely fluke victory against Guadeloupe. You did not deserve to win that game. I'm not even sure you deserved to draw. Andre Blake saved you in that game, and so did a terrible VAR decision. Jamaica are an embarrassment, and I would burn it all down and start again. Their first grouping at the Gold Cup since 2009. This is trash. Like, I don't care how you want to look at it. This is so terrible. This is a team with starters in the Premier League, in the championship. It is unacceptable no matter how you want to look at it. Steve McLaren got out-coached. The players got out-hustled. It was a disaster. It is the worst Gold Cup group stage compared to the expectations of any team, period. Nobody else even comes close. I don't even want to talk about these guys anymore. Mexico next up. I'll be honest, y'all, straight C. If you think I'm excited, if you think I'm walking away from this group stage with a ton of positives and I'm clapping my hand like a seal who wants to get thrown a fish, you're a moron. I think the fact that we are set piece FC, Cesar Montes is our top goal scorer with 3 goals. We didn't get bailed out once. We didn't get bailed out twice. We didn't get bailed out 3 times. We got bailed out 4 effing times from corner kicks to score goals against the Dominican Republic, Suriname, and we couldn't score against Costa Rica. Shout out to Keylor Navas. He had a game. But Dominican Republic and Suriname don't have good defenses. We know because Costa Rica chefed them up. So how was Costa Rica chefing them up and Mexico cannot? This team still has no balance. Defensively, we didn't even look beast mode either. Like, Garano Kirk sliced us up. Peter Gonzalez sliced us up. It was not good. The main objective of winning the group was accomplished, though we failed to get 9 points. We failed to beat Costa Rica, as we usually do in the Gold Cup. We failed to create chances. We failed to really have one 90-minute performance of excellence. Every single secondary objective was failed, and it was failed pretty hard. Yeah, we realized Mateo Chavez is good. Awesome. Yes, Marcel Ruiz is finally playing. Awesome. Those are personnel wins. Those are not wins for the Mexican national team. It was a C. Dominican Republic next up. This one is crazy tough for me because I can go either a C or a D. They needed to win that game against Suriname, man. They needed to win the game against Suriname. It's really tough for me to say anything otherwise. I think maybe I'm feeling benevolent today. I'm going to go C after I rip El Salvador and Jamaica. I'm feeling benevolent today. I'm going to go C for the Dominicans because of how they played footy. I think it was really exciting. They gave Mexico the biggest scare. So maybe I'm using a bit of bias here, but I think they were the scariest opponent. I think if you look at the Costa Rica game as well, unlucky not to get something there. And they finished in third, even though it was still on 1 point based off GD. I think the fact they're debutantes, they had 2 gigantes of CONCACAF in their group, and they finished in third place. It's a D plus, it's a C minus for me. You can argue any which way. Some people say debutantes, they usually have the magic. Others will say, like, because they are a debutante, they're definitely a C. I'm being too harsh on them. I think, potato, however you want to look at it. Panama next up. I mean, let's stop effing around here. It's a straight A. It is the best group stage. They look like the best team at the Gold Cup. They look like favorites at the Gold Cup. They took 9 points for the first time ever in the history of the Gold Cup. Thomas Christensen is cooking. They did all of this without Coco Carrasquilla, giving Jamaica, a paliza, a beatdown, a historic beatdown, 4-1 in the group stage, scoring 5 against Guadeloupe, 4 of those coming in the first 20 minutes. Yeah, beating Guatemala. I know the scoreline wasn't crazy, but it was a controlled victory from Panama. Bro, Michael Murillo doesn't even play against Jamaica in the final. They rotate against Jamaica, and they score 4. Ismael Diaz is a god again. It's an A. It's a 10 out of 10 perfect Gold Cup, and I just hope for Panama, I hope that they do enough to get respect in this tournament because there's still a lot of people, I know y'all, I see y'all in the chat, who hate on Panama, which is crazy to me. Amazing group stage campaign. All right, next up we got Haiti, and I got to keep it a buck. It's a F for sure, right next to their Caribbean brothers and Caribbean rivals, Jamaica. It was a disaster campaign for Haiti. These were my dark horse pick for the tournament. They came in on pretty good form, but then they get that beat down, that ass whooping against Curacao right before the tournament. You're thinking like, all right, whatever. They were on like a 14-game winning streak, not even like draws or undefeated, winning streak up until that point. You're thinking, okay, maybe it's good that they lose right before the Gold Cup. They still can't play games at home. You can make excuses. This is what I was doing. I was coping with how bad my dark horse pick did. And they get to the Gold Cup and, bro, they just fumbled. They fold. This is a team that have been here before. Most of these guys, especially their star players, Pirot, Duckins, Dazone, Ade, this is like their 5th Gold Cup. This is not a team full of young kids or a Dominican situation where it's like, hey, they're debutants, cut them some slack. Haiti are not debutants at the Gold Cup, and these are not young players. And again, every single way you want to look at this, failure. Maybe I could have gone D if they beat Trinidad like 4-0 and then still finished in 3rd because the Saudis just had too many points or something like that. I could have accepted that, and maybe I would have gone D. But you finishing on 1 point, being unable to beat Trinidad, finishing below Trinidad is an absolute F for Haiti. I'm embarrassed that I backed these guys. Never again will I put my footballing reputation on the line for the Haitians. Next up, we have Saudi Arabia, and this one is a bit conflicting. I'm going to give them a B, though, for a couple reasons. Number one, they advanced, so I think that they checked that off. I thought they were going to be battling a lot harder with Haiti than they ultimately did. It was kind of comfortable for them. Like, I guess they had to come back and get a draw against Trinidad on the final game, but even in that game, they were definitely the better team. They think they outshot them like 20-5, and they conceded a golazo, maybe the goal of the tournament so far. So, yeah, you could maybe penalize them for not beating Trinidad, but my counter would be in the USA game, that was easily the hardest game the USA had. Like, they barely created anything. Chris Richards scores off a set piece, and that's kind of it. So, overall, with the Saudis, with the pieces that they have, the Saudis being who they are and lacking the offensive firepower that they do, they did enough for me. I don't think they checked off every single secondary objective, but they did advance, and now they're going to play Mexico, and we're going to see what happens. But defensively, they were beasts. Just offensively, they're kind of dead, much like the Saudi A team and Saudi Arabia's been for a while now. So it is what it is. I think B is fair. Honduras next up, and this one is also tough because you have the historic loss to Canada. It's their worst loss ever in the history of the Gold Cup, 6-0. But then they recovered quite well, and they end up finishing on 6 points, y'all. And again, I'm looking at Honduras, and I'm saying, all right, I picked them to advance over Curacao. I thought it was going to be close. It was close. I mean, Luis Panama puts it away in the 91st minute. It was a very close duel, but they still got the job done. Even though Canada was awful, they could have collapsed. They could have folded. They could have gotten a draw against El Salvador, in which case they'd be in the F tier right now. But they recover and win 2 games consecutively. So I don't know what you say here. I feel like they should have been able to beat Curacao, and they did. I feel like they should have beaten El Salvador, and they did. And I thought they should have lost to Canada, and they did. So they kind of did everything I expected. I'm not sure if the footy was really that awesome. I don't know. I mean, you could go C. It's hard to go B when that 6-0 happened. That's the one thing that's keeping me from going in the B tier right now is just how bad that loss was. So I'm going to go C just because of that. But, if you want to say something else, if you want to say it's a B, I see the logic there. I'll just leave it at that. U.S. men's national team next. I will be honest, I think it's an A. And I think some Yanks will be upset by that. But, what did you expect given the players that are at this tournament? U.S. takes 9 points in a group that was semi-difficult with Saudi Arabia. That could have easily been dropped points. Haiti is not a scrub team, even though they completely folded at this tournament. It's not like they're terrible. It's not like there's no talent there. And the United States annihilate Trinidad. They annihilate Trinidad every single time, so that's not a huge achievement. But you're coming in with a group of players who have never really played together. You take 9 points. You never really look like you're going to lose. I guess it could have been more goals against the Saudis. I guess it could have been more goals against Haiti. I guess they could have kept a clean sheet against Haiti. In Panama could have kept a clean sheet against Jamaica. Should I dock them and put them down in B? Yeah, Guatemala could have taken 9 points. Should I dock them and put them down in B? No, you got to take it in the context of the matches that happened. The U.S. men's national team right now are not the favorite for the tournament. They're not the most talented team, yet they took 9 points. Only them and Panama took 9 points. So I'm going to give them an A because they did what they needed to do. And you know what? Maybe if they had a different striker, if they did have Balogun in this tournament, Or if they did have, a goalkeeper who was actually somewhat in form, maybe they wouldn't have conceded at all, and maybe they would have scored 3 more goals. I think it was an A. I really don't understand all the hate that the U.S. has gotten in this group stage. I think some of y'all just love to hate. Trinidad, speaking of hate, straight F, bro. Straight F. Outside of a golazo scored by Sealy, I don't really know what the positives are for this team. Look, the Trinidadian fans, they swore to me that they were good. They promised that I was going to see some great moments from them. I saw one individual moment, and outside of that, they kind of got cooked by everybody. I think Garcia, the center back, was another good player for them. But again, these are team grades. They got outplayed by Haiti despite Haiti being down a man. Should have lost that game. They got annihilated by the United States. Probably could have been more. I think the 5-0 was honestly a bit flattering. And then they draw Saudi Arabia because they pull a goal out of their ass and then just defend for their lives the rest of the time. Saudi Arabia had a penalty kick that wasn't called, in my opinion. I think you failed your objective. Every objective was failed, actually, except for finishing last. I don't know. I think it's an F for Trinidad. I don't really know what else I can say for this. And lastly, we have Curacao. And this is an interesting one because a lot of people had Curacao as their dark horse pick, and they end up in 3rd. I don't think you can go D for Curacao, but you cannot go B. I think a C is fair, given that they were in this thing until the end. And I think performance-wise, they outplayed Canada. Performance-wise, they outplayed El Salvador. They had their worst game against Honduras, but that's because both Bacuna bros were suspended, and they simply don't have the depth to cope with that. I mean, we talk about how Mexico, Canada, U.S. sometimes don't have depth. You think Curaçao's going to have depth when their 2 best players go down? Of course not. So, yeah, it was disappointing that they couldn't advance, but I don't think anybody's looking at this Curacao campaign and saying, like, they were frauds, they failed. I think they're the one team from the Caribbean that actually put respect on the region. Everybody else made the Caribbean look like a laughingstock. So I'm going to go with a C for Curacao. Defensively, completely outperformed my expectations. Yeah, they could have been a bit more clinical. They got hard done a little bit against Canada. It is what it is. They did what they could against Honduras. They're just less talented than Honduras, especially without the Bacuna bros. And they lost late in the game. Nothing wrong with that. I think this was a valiant defeat for Curacao. I think a C tier grade is fair. And that is the video, guys. That is my tier list. In A, I have Guatemala, Panama, and the U.S. Women's National Team. In the B tier, I've gone with Canada, Costa Rica, and Saudi Arabia. In the C tier, I have Mexico, Dominican Republic, Honduras, and Curacao. D tier is Suriname and Guadeloupe. And in the F tier, El Salvador, Jamaica, Haiti, and Trinidad and Tobago. You guys let me know what you think of those performance grades for the group stage only. Of course, we got the knockouts. I might make another video covering the teams in the knockouts. I don't know if I can do a tier list, but we'll see what I can cook up. I'll put my chef hat on. I'll put my apron on to see what I can do. If you guys don't want to miss that and all other Gold Cup and CONCACAF videos here on the channel, make sure you're subscribed. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.